My name is Pratik Agrawal. I am one of the co-founders at Ivy. Now, problems in today's world is solved not basis intuition, not basis somebody's intuition, but basis data. That's where data comes into the picture, right? So I'm a problem solver using data. So that's what I like to define myself. I'm not a Python coder. I'm not a SAS coder. I'm not a R coder. I'm not a SQL coder. I don't like to define myself like that. I like to define myself as a problem solver who uses data to solve business problems, right? Because ultimately that is what people do with data science, right? I mean, they don't use all these cool tools or languages which are there in the industry just for the heck of it. They use it with a very simple purpose, which is to solve business problems, right? So that's what I will try and do here as well. I'm going to give you a flavor of a business problem that we'll try and solve. 2 hours is not enough to, maybe take you through a Python code or a SQL code or anything like that. But I can tell you, coding or the language part of it, the computer part of it, the programming bit part of it is probably the easiest thing that one can learn. Not because I'm a computer engineer and I'm saying this, forget about it. I've been more of a business person since then. Okay, I told you, right? Late 90s is when I did computer engineering. So it's a very, very long time, a long time ago. And in the last so many years, we at Ivy we have trained so many people who have come from MBA background, MSc in economics, even BCom, BBA background. Uh, those people have had absolutely nothing to do with computers beforehand, right? But I can tell you from our experience that programming bit is probably the easiest thing that is out there to learn in data science. Okay, what is more difficult is to create that approach, create that problem solving mindset, create that logical problem solving mindset, which is very, very important in data science. Okay, so that's a very, very important thing that you have to build: aptitude to solve business problems, to understand what is the meaning of data, what is the application of data. Okay, and these are the questions which I've seen most of our students who do not end up clearing the interview rounds. This is where they falter, if they falter, not on the programming bit of it. I can tell you we are pretty good in explaining, and because then that's very simple, right? 1 + 1 always be equals to 2 in a programming world, right? Whereas in a logical, in an aptitude world, in a problem solving world, 1 + 1 may not always be equals to 2, so it can be fuzzy in that nature. So that is why this is one of the very important things that you got to learn. Now, generally I ask people what are the questions that you guys would want me to address in this session. Okay, this is a very, I've got an agenda. Definitely I've got an agenda. However, forget about my agenda. I want to actually talk about what is it that you would want me to kind of cover. So what questions that do you think I should definitely address in today's session? Any such expectation that you guys have? Anything that anybody would want me to focus on in today's session? I'll definitely more than happy to cover that. Any questions? I'll wait for a couple of minutes. If there are no questions, I've got a list of questions already prepared because I've done this kind of session multiple times. So, any questions, guys?
Yeah, can I ask a question? So this is
Yes, please.
Sheetal.
Yeah.
Yeah, so see, basically, I'm not from analytics or from science background. Though I have done my graduation in computers, but then I am into HR and recruitment from
Mm-hmm.
last 6 years. So I want to change my domain now into analytics, and I have a certain understanding on Excel and advanced Excel. But I have interest in this, so I'm seeking I want to make my career into it. So will that be a good step right now? I mean, in lockdown situation, do we have the growth and career here, and changing the domain totally from recruitments to analytics? Will that be a good step or not? So that's the question.
Okay. I'll write it down. During COVID, okay, is it a good time to learn data science? And then I'll put one more question because your question had two questions in it. Should somebody switch from, let's say, HR into data science, right? And then there are a
Yeah.
couple of questions which have come in the chat window. I'm going to address that. Don't worry about it. Why is everybody interested? Why is everybody interested to learn data science? Okay. Why is everybody interested to learn data science? Very good question, I think. Why? You may cover career transformation. Definitely. So I think these are career transformation questions only. Does it hold future? Okay. What's there in the, how does the future look like? Okay. How to make a career transition? I think there'll be a lot of career transition related questions, from mech engineering to DS, from HR to DS. Many such questions would be there, definitely. Yeah, I mean, current jobs. See, it's not about current jobs, because there can be current jobs about accounting, accountancy. There could be current jobs about data storytelling. There could be current jobs about selling. It's not about any jobs. It's about data science jobs. Yes, we'll talk about it. Okay. What is the path? What is the suggested path to data science? What should I learn first? This is also a question that I keep getting. Undergrad in stats, statistics to DS. Okay. Okay. Now, a couple of things. Okay. I think accounting and commerce. Okay. Okay. So I'm assuming everybody knows kind of what data science is, right? I mean, so data science is about using data to solve problems. So, for example, suppose I'll give you a very simple example. Suppose you want to buy medicine, and there are three pharmacy store right next to each other, like how we see in India, right? It's a very common thing. So this is pharmacy store 1, this is pharmacy store 2, this is pharmacy store 3. They're right next to each other, right? But you see that in one of these pharmacy store, let's say in P2, there are a lot of people standing, waiting, even waiting outside. A lot of people, right? Even though it's a regular pharmacy store, right? But in just one of them, there are just too many people, and just there are a couple of people here, there's just one person here. So now you're wondering why this particular pharmacy store has so many people, right? And you have to make a decision, which pharmacy store should I go to? So how will you decide? So you're just thinking, you just came out of your car or your bike, or or maybe just came out of the bus, and you're now thinking, which pharmacy store do you go to? So you would feel that, what, there are a lot of people here, there are very few people here, and there are very few people here, right? So let's say if you have time, you will say that, all right, I am going to go to P2. The reason being that there are a lot of people here, so that means they must be doing something right, right? Or maybe you have something else in your mind, and you say that, what, I just have to buy a Vicks Vaporub gel, right, which is a common medicine. For that, I really do not have to be worried so much. It's a very cheap medicine, maybe 20 rupees or whatever it is, and I do not have to be worried about going to P2 and wait in the line, because it seems like there is a lot of wait time, right? So I'll just go to P3, right? Because this guy probably doesn't have a lot of people, so I'll be in and out very quickly, right? So there is a decision that you made, and the decision that you made was basis the data. The data here was the number of people waiting in P2, number of people in P1, and number of people in P3. And also the data was, what is it that I wanted to buy, right? I just wanted to buy a Vicks Vaporub, right? Which is a standard product, branded product. I do not be worth, so there'll be MRP, and the brand is pretty good. There is not much of counterfeit happening. So it's very simple that I had to make a decision, right? Now, this is what data science is, right? You had some information, some data about these three choices, and you have to make a decision, right? Now, imagine you're buying a phone. Imagine you want to buy a phone. Now, sorry, I'll just do a control C. You want to buy a phone. Now, this buying a phone is dependent upon what? What do you think it depends upon? What would it depend upon? Buying a phone would depend upon what? Anybody?
Specifications.
specifications. Okay, so you will say buying a phone is a function of features or and price and discount and brand. Feature, P is price, D is discount, B is brand. Aren't these the things that you consider while buying a phone, right? So buying a phone is dependent upon these four variables. Do you all understand this, guys? These four independent variables, as we say. Buying a phone is a dependent variable. The reason why it is a dependent variable, because this dependent variable, which is from buying a phone, depends upon these independent variables here, guys, right? Now, based on historic data, suppose if I'm a seller, I'm Amazon, not just a normal small seller, but I'm Amazon, right? Which sells probably millions of phones every year, right? Now, if you're Amazon, you sell millions of phones every year. You have a lot of data, historical data available to you, right? That people of certain age, certain demography from certain place end up buying these kind of phones, right? So what you have done is, basis the past data, you have created a model. Now, what is this a model? So this model is not that model which walks on the fashion ramp, right? This model is really nothing but an equation, right? And the equation is that this dependent variable buy a phone, which is a function of so many f, p, d, b, right? You will say that you give 70% weightage to price plus 10% weightage to brand plus 15% weightage to features plus 5% weightage to discount. And this may vary depending upon what segment of phone that is. Now, how did we get this average of these values or coefficients for these independent variables? How? Where did we get this from? We got it from historical data. Do you all agree with me? Right? So based on this historical data, we have created a model. Model is really nothing but an equation. Based on this historical data, we have understood that people make decision or of certain kind of segment of people who are buying certain segment of phones. Let's say you're buying this. Let's say this is valid for anybody who is buying a phone between 10,000, 10K to let's say 15K smartphone. Okay, this equation may change for different category of phones, right? So this is a function of these four parameters or four variables, and these are the weighted average for these variables. And based on this, right, we can predict what is the likelihood that a phone would be bought or not bought. Let's say there is a new phone that is launched by OnePlus. Now OnePlus phones are a little more expensive. Let's say new phone launched by Redmi, although you should not use Chinese devices these days, is what we keep hearing. But let's say Redmi has just launched a new phone. Now, Redmi phone is somewhere around 12K, so it falls in this particular bracket. And then you will say, using this equation, which is valid basis the past historical data, you will say what is the likelihood that this phone will be bought and in how much quantity over the next 3 months, next 6 months, next 1 month, next 1 week, right? So this model becomes the brain of this data science decision making process, right? So you will not rely on your intuition, then you will rely on this equation. Do you understand this, right? So in data science, ultimately what we do is that we try and come up with this kind of a model, right? And so when you keep hearing about model, so model in data science is really nothing but some combination of variables, right, which helps us to make decisions. Is this making sense? Now this is called as a supervised algorithm, and the reason why this is called as a supervised algorithm, because there is a dependent variable available to us. There is a dependent variable available to us. Then there is something called as unsupervised algorithm. Now, what happens in an unsupervised algorithm is, let's say I want to classify the students who are attending today's workshop into multiple classes or multiple categories, right? So I will say that, okay, can I classify them basis something? What do you guys think? How can I classify you guys into, or how can we classify all the people who are attending today's workshop? How do we classify them? What do you guys think? How do we classify them? Any idea? How do we classify people who are attending today's workshop? Any suggestion? Anybody? So Malkit is saying, okay, we can classify them basis qualification. Good point. What else? Basis age. Very good point. What else? Location. Very, very good point. Demographics. Yeah. I mean, let's be a little more specific. City. We can classify them basis gender. Work experience. Work versus fresher. Right. So you understood, right? There are so many variables on the basis of which we can classify these guys. But here, probably we do not really know what is it that we will achieve out of this, but we will still be able to classify these people into multiple classes or multiple categories, right? Maybe I will classify them as to how many are freshers, experienced, right, young, old, right, uh, urban, rural, right? Different classes. Once I have classified them into different classes, maybe I can then run marketing campaigns on the basis of this. I can run different campaign for somebody who's young and somebody who's old. I can run a different marketing campaign for somebody who's fresher and somebody who's experienced. I can run a different campaign in for urban people and for rural people. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So while a supervised algorithm where we had a clearly defined dependent variable helped us to helped us to identify or predict what would happen with a new phone, right? How many phones could be sold and what is the likelihood that a phone could be sold, right? That a supervised algorithm helped us do that, and an unsupervised algorithm helped us to classify people or classify our data into multiple classes so that we can then target them with some specific things. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Right? So if you have, when you're launching a new phone, right, and if you already have the data of historical such phones, right, then you can predict how many people can we target. But if you do not have a lot of historical information about the phone, suppose Apple decides to launch a 5 lakh rupees phone. Now there is no past experience, and Apple is known for doing this, right? They take the same product which other companies have done, they just make it better, and then they launch it at 4x price, right? So there is no historical information, because Steve Jobs always used to believe that if you rely on historical information only, that means you can only get incremental growth, and I want disruptive growth. So that's a different thought process. But let's say there is no historical information available for a 5 lakh rupees phone. So that, if I'm a marketing manager who's promoting 5 lakh rupees phone, how will I promote it? I do not have historical information. So what will I do in that case is, I will see that, okay, how can I divide my population? Suppose I am launching this phone in India. So how can I divide India's population into how many different classes? And I'll keep dividing them until I am satisfied that I can see that there's no logic to divide these people further, right? So I've got, let's say, some experienced folk, very very rich people living in urban areas, speaking English, have done post graduation or graduation at least, and have businesses. Suppose these are the different categories that I have been able to identify. Then I will run some marketing campaigns, and then I'll see and analyze the performance of those marketing campaigns. Do you understand? So that will be an unsupervised algorithm. Is this making sense, guys? So the world of data science is divided into supervised algorithm and unsupervised algorithm. And the difference is that in supervised algorithm, we have a clearly defined output of an equation, which is a dependent variable. And in unsupervised algorithm, we have multiple classes to talk about. Is it making sense? And there are independent variables in both the cases, right? But in a supervised algorithm, we also have a dependent variables. In unsupervised algorithm, we do not have a dependent variable. Is this making sense, guys? right? So this is how we divide the data science world into different algorithms, as you keep hearing, because these are the words that you'll keep hearing in job descriptions. These are the words and phrases that you will keep seeing people talking about. So I think it's very good to understand the first thing as to what do we do in data science. First, we make decisions based on the data. And how do we do it? That we use algorithms, right? And the algorithms are divided into couple of couple of classes. One is supervised algorithm, second is unsupervised algorithm, right? We'll talk more, if the time permits, we'll talk a little bit more about the specifics of some of the supervised algorithms and unsupervised algorithms. Now let's come back to the question that you guys had asked. During COVID, is it a good time? If I were to ask you this question, during COVID, what are the services and the products that you used constantly when you were at home? Can anybody tell me what are the services and the products that the world was using even when they were at home, and they were spending money on it? Zoom, okay, virtual conference, very good. What else? These are the things that you guys have said, right? Masks, sanitizers, Paytm, right? So all these industries, they all generate huge amount of data. They all generate huge amount of data. And all these industries, if you notice, right, like Amazon, when you go to Amazon or Flipkart, right, what do you notice first? They show you recommended products. How do they show recommended products? Basis the historical information that you have, right? Basis data science. So any such digital service that we talk of, or any such digital product that we all use, rely on data. When you go to Netflix, right, it shows you very quickly what are the movies that you would be interested to watch next. Recommendation filtering, that's again a data science algorithm. When you go to and you when you go to, let's say, retail, right? I mean, in lockdown, Ivy we closed one client, Tesco, which is the largest, one of the largest, or not largest, retailer in Europe. Tesco came to us saying that, hey, we are actually, the manager said, we are in a very good situation, we are making a lot of money right now, and we got a lot of data that we're generating every day. And we just hired like 87 data science folks in India, and we want them to be trained and coached and hand-holded and so on and so forth. So we're doing a massive project with them during the lockdown. Retail, they made a lot of money out of it, because those retail was the only industry that was allowed to run, right? So the idea is that all these companies that we have spoken about, the digital companies, they are pioneers in using data. And when they are using data to make decisions, they need people who are good in data science, without which they can't make that decision. You understand what I'm trying to say? You guys also mentioned, you forgot to mention one more interesting industry, which is the biggest hiring industry: banks, insurance companies. BFSI, banking and financial services institution, they are flushed with money, flushed, because people took out money from different asset classes and they put their money in savings. People stopped spending much, so that means the banks had more money to play with, right? So banks are flushed with money, and banks, BFSI industry hires one third of all the data science all the data science professions traditionally as well. And the reason why they like to hire most of the people in data science is because BFSI industry has the most accurate data on all of us. You would never forge, you would never, give a false information to your bank. You would never say that, you are not Pratik Agarwal if you are Pratik Agarwal. But to a retailer, you can still, give a false information and there is no legal implication around it. But you can't give false information to a bank. They also do KYC. So banks have most accurate information on their people, on their customers. They know exactly where you're spending money, how much money you are earning, how frequently you spend money, what is the rate of spend versus rate of income that you have, where do you live, everything accurate. So any decision that the banks make on their customer data is going to be significantly more accurate than any of the other industries as well. So banks also are big hiring. So all these companies, right, they need people in the data science world, right? So please, in data science, I mean, in during COVID lockdown itself, in Ivy, we have had students getting placed in McKinsey, in PwC, in in KPMG, and so many such good companies, Aegon Insurance, many such companies, established companies, a few banks as well. The reason why, and we were also a little surprised, when that was happening. The reason was very simple, right? I mean, these companies that we're talking of, they have exploited the situation, or they were in they were in a stage, they were in a state where they were at advantage. Does make sense? So all these new age companies, or some of them are not so new actually, but all these companies which are generating huge amount of data, right? They need people who are from within data science world to manage it. So the message that I keep giving to the folks is that during COVID, there were some industries which were untouched, in fact, which went into a little more advantageous position. And data science happens to be one of such industry. Education, you guys have not mentioned education here. We closed a client called as Byju's in one of our group companies just before lockdown, and they gave a lot of good businesses. There are a lot of such companies which actually had a great time in COVID, and all of them are digital in service, or at least they had digital interface. And all these companies, and the advantage of digital is that it generates a lot of data, a lot of structured data, and then you need people who are good with data in order to help make sense of those data. Is it making sense? So that's one question that I wanted to make sure that you all understand, and you can talk about it, right? And why is everybody interested to learn data science? It's a very simple thing, So the first time that I personally heard about data science was in back in 2003. There was a company called as ZS Associate. It's now in India as well. So I was in my college in the US. I was doing my masters, and this company's founders, one Indian and one I mean, one American. Both the guys were PhD from Chicago School, University of Chicago, and the information session. So they had come for information session in a college, and I remember that Indian guy, the one of the main founders, he said that decision sciences. That was the first time I had heard of this word called as decision sciences. His lines were exactly this: that decision sciences in the next decade will become um, computer science of 90s. Meaning, what computer science used to be in 90s and early 2000 is what decision science will become. And the reason being that everybody is going to stop relying on intuition and people experiences, but will start to rely on data and facts to make decisions, whether it is business decision or whether it is personal decision. Nowadays, one of my dream projects has been that I work on a smart wardrobe, whereby I just stand in front of the wardrobe and I ask, hey wardrobe, please help me decide what should I wear today. And why can't the wardrobe decide for me? Because the wardrobe knows how many clothes are inside. If the wardrobe is connected to my Google Calendar app, then Gmail app or Gmail Calendar app, then it can know that, okay, what are the main appointments I have today, and who all I met in the last few days, and who I met last time. And it could actually help me understand that, I mean, do I need to wear the same clothes or not wear the same clothes? So he said the next decade and a half would be of data science or decision sciences. And the idea and the reason why why people are running behind this decision sciences or data sciences is that any company, whether it is a small company, medium sized company, large company, or any person, whether you are using smartphone, the moment you use a smartphone, smartwatch, anything smart, right, anything smart in product, all these products, smart products, have to recommend decisions. And in order to recommend decisions, they need to design these algorithms. And who will design these algorithms? They need people to design those algorithms. So, and all these companies which are making decisions, irrespective of their size, they all have to rely on making accurate decisions. And the most accurate decision can only be made if you're using your data. And you see, what has happened is that because of the advent of computers, and then smartphones, and then very high, very fast-paced internet like 4G and 5G and whatever we are talking about nowadays, because of these three phenomenons, right, we are generating huge amount of data. Whatever data that we have generated in the last 2 months or last 1 month has been 3 times more amount of data that we generated in the last 3 years. So yeah, I will highlight the age parameter also, Abu. uh, so what happens is that you got you got a world that we live in now where we all generate huge amount of data. Even during COVID time, the discussion that every day that we used to have is that how many, so we were every day we were having discussion, what is the mortality rate, what is the recovery rate, how many new cases, how many recovered cases, and so on and so forth, right? So the world is getting very used to use data in different ways, different walks of their lives. And that's the reason why you need people who can talk about data, who can work with data, who know how and what and when of data, right? So that's the reason why all the opportunities areas, a lot of opportunities areas are coming in data science world. The world is becoming smart, the companies are becoming smart, and the main definition of becoming smart is that people use data. Let me show you one small image, and that probably makes sense as well here. You see, the difference between these analog products which are right over here versus these digital product is that these digital products are smart products. That means they can recommend decision. They can recommend decision. So what is the definition of a smart product, right? So the definition of a smart product, this is something that I created, and I really feel that any young person who's living in today's time should know this this framework very, very well, because in the coming decade and a half or 2 decades, we all will be touched, each and every part of our lives will be touched with smart products. Okay, to make a smart product, so I give you an idea of a smart wardrobe, right, or a smart watch that we all use, or a smart phone that we use, right? How do you make a product smart? Let's say you have a fan, right, which is running in your room, and you want to, right now it is very dumb, right? You have to decide, you have to go to the regulator, and you have to decide, whether you want the fan to run at 4 or 3 or 5, I mean speed of the fan, you regulate it, right? Why can't the fan regulate by itself, right, depending upon the temperature outside, depending upon my preference? Because fan and I've had a relation, right? I mean, I've been under this fan for probably a few years, so fan knows that I like to run the fan at a particular speed on a particular day at a particular time of the week, right, or at a particular time of the day. So why can't the fan decide, right? So suppose if you're designing a smart fan, so what are the components that you would require? So you would require some mechanism to connect your fan to Wi-Fi. So one of our clients is Tata Steel, and we are helping them build IoT infrastructure. They're getting a lot of people getting trained on IoT or Internet of Things, because they want to monitor, they want to create these, or they want to connect these devices and machineries that they have in their manufacturing plant to internet, so that they can generate data. So Internet of Things, that means you need a Wi-Fi that you will put into your fan, right? And these Wi-Fi chips are less than few dollars these days. So you embed this fan with the Wi-Fi chip so that it gets connected to your home Wi-Fi. The moment it is connected to your home Wi-Fi, now it becomes an IoT device or Internet of Things device, because your fan is now in the internet backbone. The moment it is on the internet, then it will generate data. data, what kind of data a fan would generate? Any idea? What kind of data would a fan generate? Okay, so user is saying JSON. I don't care about the format of data, but I'm RPM. Malkit is saying rotation per minute, right? RPM. Very good. Electric consumption. So electricity consumption. Average speed. Good point. All these are going to be the data, right? And maybe a few more. So all this data that is getting generated, and maybe the fan has a few sensors, and it can sense how many people are there in the room. People in the room. And it has some sensor to take the temperature of the room as well, right? So what is the temperature of the room? And similarly, it is connected. Let's say it is connected to a weather app online, and so the temperature outside, right? All these data is going to get generated. Where would that data be stored? One option is that you have a storage device in the fan, but then that would make the fan device a little more clumsy and more expensive. Rather, through Wi-Fi, when it is connected to the internet, you connect it to a cloud database. A cloud database is a database which is hosted on the internet, right? Just like your Google Drive. Like we all have used Google Drive or OneDrive to store our pictures, our files to share with others, right? So this cloud is really nothing but a database which is hosted on the internet, right? So you got a database which is hosted in the internet. So I mean, Google has a big data center, Facebook has big data center, LinkedIn has big data center, Amazon has very large data centers. So the data is getting stored in the cloud, and then once the data is stored in the cloud, then what do you do with it? So there is huge amount of data now. You want to give this flexibility, this access to the data to the user. So this is where the app comes into the picture, the application that we all use on the phone or in our computers. So you need somebody with great user experience, UI UX experience and understanding to design that app so that people can easily see, like just like how we can see our smart watch app, right? How many steps have we have taken, how many calories we have burnt, and so on and so forth, right? So we got the data here. We got an app which can display the information as well in a visualized fashion very nicely. And then comes data science. What would data science do? Data science will take the data that is stored, that is getting stored in the cloud database, and make sense and recommend what kind of things that a smart fan can recommend. The decision that a smart fan can recommend, guys. What do you guys feel? What kind of decision that a smart fan can recommend, guys? Any idea? What decisions can it recommend? What do you guys think? What can it recommend? One of the very basic decisions that it'll recommend is at what speed should the fan run at, right? Adjust the speed. That's right, Arbu. So it'll basically adjust the speed, right? Fan, nothing else. Just one simple decision, which is to adjust the speed. And that recommendation is going to come basis the analysis of these algorithms, these parameters. Remember we discussed supervised algorithm, right? We said there is a dependent variable which depends upon some variables. What are the variables and what is the dependent variable here, guys? Anybody who can tell me what is the dependent variable here? What is the dependent variable here? What are we trying to predict? The speed is the dependent variable. That's right. Whatever we recommend is the dependent variable, guys. Okay, this is the dependent variable which we are recommending. And what are the independent variables? That means the variables that this adjust speed depends upon. These are the independent variables that it depends upon. So now you understand the equation that we were talking about. So this is a supervised algorithm because there is a clearly marked dependent variable, right? And there are clearly marked independent variables, right? So you saw that how data science algorithm came into use in building the smart fan, right? Now, if you are a data scientist, you are the person who would actually tweak and create this algorithm. Does it make sense, guys? Right? And once all these four components are there in a product, that it is connected to the internet, so it becomes IoT. It is connected to the internet and it's generating data, and that the data is getting stored in the cloud, right? Cloud database, and it has a great user interface or a app to adjust or to display the information in a visualized fashion, backed with a data science algorithm to recommend. That's when this becomes like this becomes a smart product. That is the definition of a smart product. And one of the very famous computer visionary, Mr. Carey, he said a couple of years ago that the mainstream data science product or the mainstream AI product, artificial intelligence product that we all will be using. Like for example, in today's time, we all use smartphones, right? It's pretty ubiquitous. Everybody has it. Maybe it is a 2,000 rupee smartphone or a 200,000 rupees smartphone, but everybody has. A lot of people have smartphones, right? So smartphone is a ubiquitous smart product that everybody is using. So his point was that the smart product that the AI product that everybody will use from 15 to 20 years from now has not been invented yet. So you still have a lot of opportunities. I still see a lot of dumb products. My lights are done, my fans are done, my geyser is done, my boiler is done, my Wi-Fi, my microwave or refrigerator is still dumb. Although I can see some of the smart refrigerators coming. I just recently bought a new washing machine. I replaced a 15 years old washing machine in my house. And I was surprised, right? When the seller said this washing machine connects with Wi-Fi and it is connected with Alexa, I said, all right, I want to buy it, even if I have to pay 5,000 rupees extra for it. And it's very interesting, right? Using Alexa, I can actually control my washing machine from anywhere in the world, right? So it's very interesting that how the world is transformation. And take my word, within 5 years time, you all will see that there is a huge transformation going to happen in all the products that we all use today. One of my friends is working on a product to make the bottles, water bottles, smart bottles. So he's building a chip here, which will measure the temperature of the bottle, which will measure the minerals in the water, and which will also measure how many milliliter have you drank in the day, and will recommend basis your your weight profile, basis your diet profile, will recommend how much water to drink, and then it is connected to your mobile phone through an app, so it gives you notification that hey, there's a reminder to drink more water. You understand what I'm trying to say? So the world is becoming smart, and this is where data science comes into the picture. In fact, I say that if you're good in any one of these, you have a great career ahead. Okay, but what I also recommend is that you should know a little bit of each of these so that you can work as a product manager also. A product manager is a person who can work on IoT, cloud, or has understanding at least of IoT, cloud, user experience, that means app and data science. He's not an expert in any one of these because there'll be people who will be working in each one of these different domains. But a product manager is somebody who can control a team and manage all these things in a product. Does make sense, guys? Any questions from this? Yeah. Now, do you get a picture as to how these algorithms like supervised and unsupervised algorithm, how data science fits into building a smart product? Is there any confusion as to what a data scientist would do then? Now, all right. Thank you, Abu. Abu says excellent explanation. Thank you. Um, Now, I want to talk about a couple of more questions that you guys. Um, Transition from here, from different backgrounds to data science. I've spoken about all these skills, right, that a data scientist is supposed to do. What are the main skills do you think a data scientist should have? What do you guys think? What skills should a data scientist have? What skills do you think the data scientist have? Calculus, probability, statistics. Okay, good with numbers, linear algebra. Okay, very good. Let's look at this, huh? Estimation, prediction, knowledge of visualization. Okay, good points. Skills that a data scientist should have. Lily, I'm going to mute you because there was echo from your mic. The skills that a data scientist should absolutely have. I'll just add one more thing here. Probability and statistics. Okay, probability and statistics, because you see, we've been talking about, right, what is the likelihood that a person will buy a phone? That is depending upon probability. So probability comes almost in any data science algorithm. So probability becomes one of the very, very key things. That probability that we all learned in the school days, that's the probability that we're talking about. Nothing new. But that is the probability that we're talking about, okay, that we learned in our school days. Statistics, application of statistics, not so much of theory, but application. So we spoke about supervised and unsupervised algorithms. So there are a couple of algorithms, that a couple of statistical concepts which are very frequently used in this data science world. One is regression algorithm and one is classification algorithm. Classification algorithms. Okay, regression algorithms help you in a dependent variable scenario where you have to predict a continuous variable. That means what could be the income of a person if he has post graduation, if he has uh, worked in a multinational, if he lives in Bangalore, what would be the income that a person would have after 2 years, right? So that is, income is a continuous variable because it could be 100,000, it could be 125,000, it could be 118,000 a month, or it could be 5,000 rupees a month. So it's a continuous variable. So when the output, when the dependent is a continuous variable, then we say it's a regression equation, okay? And we'll see some of the examples more. And classification is this, right? When we want to classify, or when we say that what is the, so will the person buy this phone or not buy this phone? So buy or not buy, will the person default on a loan, not default on a loan? So that is classification, right? So these two sets of algorithms are used in 80% of data science problems, regression and classification. So that's what these becomes very, very important. And here the statistics is a little different from what statistics that we might have learned in school days and college days, because most of the Indian colleges and schools, what I realized after going to the US was that, because I did my engineering and my schooling from India, so there's a little difference in terms of what the way we learned. It's not that we learned bad things, because Indian's education system is actually pretty renowned, especially when you go to the Western countries. Then you will realize that how much of respect that you get if you're an Indian engineer. Um, the the point I was trying to say is that in India we learn a lot of these concepts very theoretically. For example, we learn statistics, but from we learn statistics from a point of view of clearing an exam. But when I learned statistics as part of my master's, it was more like an application, right? Suppose in a foggy day, if the data says, I remember that professor, okay, who started our statistics class with this notion. I'm talking about my master's in the US, and he said that on a foggy day, suppose if the data says that there are less number of accidents on the road, does it mean that the government should come up with a circular saying that people should drive more, people should be more confident while driving on foggy days? What do you think? The data says that on foggy days there are less number of accidents. Does it mean that it's safe to drive on foggy days? What do you guys think? On foggy days there are less number of accidents. Does it mean it's safer to drive on foggy days? Somebody said no. Suparna said no. No. Why are you guys saying no? When the data is saying, and I have been saying that data is right. What are we missing in the data? He's saying those are not correlated. Maybe they are actually correlated, Pragya. In fact, they are. Maybe they're not. They do not have a causal relation, but they are correlated probably. The data says that when there is fog in the road, there is less number of accidents. Underfitting. The difference between correlation and causation. Good point here. You see, maybe one of the reasons why there are less number of accidents on foggy days is, all right, guys, I just want to ask, forget statistics. Some of the people are talking about, a lot of statistical terms. I don't want to go because, not everybody probably will be aware, would be aware of those terms. So what do you guys think? Logic says what? On foggy days, why are there less number of accidents? Why are there less number of accidents? Any idea? It's a very simple answer actually. Absolutely right. Pragya says because there are less number of people driving on the road. That could be one of the very, very plausible reasons, right? That since there are less number of people on the road on foggy days because people are cautious, right? Hence, there are less number of accidents, isn't it? Or people are more conscious, as Dipendu says. People are driving at low speed, they're more conscious, they're not sleeping, they're not talking to anybody, everybody is watching the road. Do you understand? So hence there are less number of accidents, right? So statistics from an application of application is what you need to know in data science. Not statistics from an application of okay, I want to learn how to drive this equation. That may also be important, but not as important as understanding that how do I apply this concept of statistics to solve what real life problem. And this is where, like in this particular case that we spoke about, the foggy days example, the difference between correlation and causation comes, right? That somebody a butterfly is here in India and there something happening in the space, right? This may be correlated, but not, you know, butterfly flying in India doesn't cause somebody doing something in the space. Do you understand? So statistics is a very application oriented subject. It's a subject which is more like art than science, I say. The reason is that in art you can actually visually see everything, you can touch and feel, it affects people. Statistics has application on everybody's daily life routine, right? When you open your wardrobe to decide which clothes to wear, right? Now if you're married, like, you know, of course I've been married to my wife for last 12 years, so I can almost say with confidence that today what she will wear, although it's very difficult, but still her wardrobe may be filled with clothes, but I know her preferences for certain days. If you're not going to the office, she has some preference. If it is going to be hot, she has some preference. You understand? And this is based on the data that I've seen because I've been married for the last 12 years. Does it make sense? So statistics has great application. I chose my wife. Oh well, in the sense I proposed my wife after doing some statistical analysis on certain parameters. Don't ask me what, but I did that. What I'm trying to say is that it has great application on everybody's life. So learn statistics from application perspective. Don't learn statistics as a mathematical or a as a statistical science subject. Okay, that's a very important message that I try and give, and you'll find then statistics very, very interesting. Just open, just Google, and I would say if you want to learn something about statistics, there are a lot of good resources. You know, if you go to IvyProSchool blog, you will find what we have done is that we have given great some very good references to some great statistics. Yeah, so just search for, like, say, statistics ebooks or something like that, or just statistics also. If you search, you'll find so list of free, complete guide to. So this is, so these two resources are great, right? Online reading resources for analytical statistical concepts is one of my favorites. So what we have done here is that we've listed out some of the very, very interesting statistics books. You know, for example, this one, okay, one of the best. Why I like this is that this is visual in nature. Go with something which is visual in nature. Okay, visual statistics. It's especially if you're new to statistics. Okay, the reason, well, they've changed it. Okay, they have changed this one. Maybe the company got acquired. Uh, yeah, otherwise go with this one. I mean, any one of these, just open any one of these and start reading. Whatever you can learn, you should try and learn. But learn from a perspective of not learning as a theory subject, but learn it from perspective of how do I solve what problem in real life. Okay, and that's when you actually fall in love with statistics. Linear algebra, especially when you are learning, especially if you have a vision to learn, typical, I mean, the deep learning concepts or AI concepts, for example, computer vision, text mining, natural language processing. So then you'll have to learn a little bit of linear algebra as well. Again, this is the linear algebra which we learned at school days. However, this is, if in data science something is little complex, then this is what is one of the most important, most complex things. So that's fine. Take baby steps. There are a lot of great learning materials available on Ivy's YouTube portal, as well as, and plus, in general, as well as if you just just Google, you'll find a lot of concepts. The first thing that you want to learn here is what is vector. Okay, what is vector? First, learn vector. Learn it from Khan Academy. Okay, they have a great description of what is vector. Of course, as part of the course, we try and do a better job at it. But start with what is vector. It's going to be very important and interesting, especially if you are going towards learning deep learning, computer vision, AI side of the extreme side of data science, as we call it. Computer programming, but here again, it's about application. We are not building a software, so we do not have to learn C++. Although if you know C++, it helps. But we're going to learn, we're going to use these, right? For example, in Excel, we write equals to sum, right? So we are a solver, we are a user of these functions. So similarly, in Python, suppose if you have to, we spoke about these supervised and unsupervised algorithm, right? Regression and classification algorithms. So a lot of these algorithms are pre-built, stored as packages in Python, in R, in SAS. So you should know how to call those, or how to just, for example, in Excel, we write equals to sum, right? So we know sum is a function and equals to is the operator with which we call the function. And these are the parameters or the variables that we give to this function, okay? And this function works on this parameter and gives us an output. Similarly, for regression, there is a function available in Python. Correlation is a function available. All the models that we want to build, right? The functions are already pre-designed and available in those languages. So you should know how to call them. That's the level of computer programming that we're talking about, because we end up working with computers and softwares because the data is huge. So that's why you require this. So that's the bit of computer programming. So again, as I said, that's probably the easiest thing to learn. A lot of people get scared, oh, I have to learn coding. No, coding in this data science world, and believe me, don't think that I am a computer engineer and hence I'm saying this. I have done very little computer engineering, I'm computer science or computer programming in my life. Yes, I've used a lot of these softwares that we use as a user of these softwares, not as a builder of these softwares. I'm not asking, we are not going to build an Excel, but we are going to use Excel. We're not going to build SQL as a language, but we're going to use SQL. We're not going to build complex functions in Python, but we will use a lot of functions which are already built in Python, right? So that's, you're a user of these computer programs. And this probably the most difficult thing, this logical thinking, almost in all the interviews you're asked, right? And the way they ask is, the questions could be as random as this. Okay, one of the questions that I was asked in one of my final round of interviews in I'm talking about back in 2004 or so, that how many crows are there in New York, Manhattan? Kavwe, how many crows are there? So you may be asked, how many crows are there in your city? One of my other students was asked, how many grass pellets are there in Firoz Shah Kotla? He was from Delhi. The interviewer said that, okay, in your resume, you mentioned that you love watching cricket or you are a avid cricket follower, right? So he said, have you been to Firoz Shah Kotla? The student said, yes, sir, I have been to Firoz Shah Kotla a few times, quite a few times. He said, all right, so tell me, how many grass pellets are there in Firoz Shah Kotla? Now, this guy in the middle, and he said, think for 5 minutes, I'll be back, the interviewer said, and he left the room. And this guy, the student of mine, he messages me, sir, it's a weird question somebody has asked, that how many grass pellets are there in Firoz Shah Kotla? How do I answer this kind of a question? So there's a very logical explanation to this. How many crows are there in New York, Manhattan? Fortunately for me, my roommate was also asked the same question one evening before me. Okay, this is the same question. He said very proudly that there are 100,000 crows in New York, Manhattan. I said, so they had a great laugh. So he said to the interviewer, said, how do you know so confidently that there are 100,000 crows only? So he said that, sir, I'm pretty confident. If you have any doubt, you can go and count. So the interviewer said, okay, what if I count and if I find 90,000 crows? Then what would be your explanation? So he said that if you find 90,000, then some of these crows must have flown to Canada to meet their cousins. And if you find more than 100,000, then they must have brought some cousins from Canada, because Canada shared boundary with New York. They must have brought cousins from Canada to New York, Manhattan. So we had a great laugh. The interviewer also probably had a great laugh. But I thought overnight, and I said, that can't be the answer, because why would anybody ask such a question in such an important round and final round, and the guy was a vice president of that company. So I thought a little bit, and then I thought, there must be a way to to estimate it. And these kind of questions are called as guesstimate questions, because we estimate. So how can you estimate the number of crows in a city? So crows require trees to live. Crows requires trees to live. So if you're able to estimate the number of trees, then you will be able to estimate the number of crows or number of nests, because in a tree may have 4 or 5 nests, and then in a nest you may have 3 or 4 crows. So you can easily estimate. The interviewer is not concerned about the final answer. He's not concerned about whether there are actually 150,000 crows or 5,000 crows or 500 crows. It doesn't care. He's more worried about what approach that you have taken. So I said that New York, Manhattan, if anybody has ever been to New York, Manhattan, they would tell you that it's pretty grid, just like Chandigarh in India, right? Or many such cities which are very well planned. So there are fixed number of avenues and there are fixed number of streets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and one whatever number of avenues which are there. And each one of these is a block. And if you're standing at a crossing of a block, you can see the number of trees along the roads, right? So if you can figure out the number of blocks here, then you can actually figure out the number of trees, because each block is roughly of the same size. So the trick here was to figure out how many blocks are there, which is just multiply the number of avenues with number of streets, right? Then you'll get the number of blocks, and multiply with an estimated figure of number of trees in each block, and you'll get the number of trees. And once you got the number of trees, then you can easily estimate the number of crows that live in New York, Manhattan, right? So what I'm trying to say is that these kind of questions are very frequently asked to test your logical thinking. Maybe one of the other kind of question, like I said, this pharmacy store, right? Example that I spoke about, right? This question was also asked that what if there are 3 pharmacy stores, right? One of them is doing great, but 2 of them are not doing so great. Why? What could be the reasons, right? So it's a logical question more than a data science question, but it's very related to data science because it helps you to solve business problem. It also helps the interviewer to understand how well you can think through a problem and how good you are in basic number crunching. Yeah, so that's what, I mean, typically if you ask me how do you know, because this is one of my favorite areas as well, because I've been a consultant, so that's one of the things that I love to do. These kind of guesstimate questions are solved using 2 things. One is you have to identify the constraints. So the constraints can be supply or demand. 2 kind of constraints are there in such logical problems: supply or demand. In this particular case, in case of the trees, what was the constraint? Was the supply constraint or was the demand constraint? What was the constraint, guys? Here, what was the constraint? Anybody? In the example of how many crows are there, what was the constraint? Was the supply constraint or the demand constraint? The constraint was supply of tree. I get the point. Meaning, if you have more trees, there'll be more crows. Do you understand this? Now, one of the other question that's a lot of times interviewers ask is, suppose you like to go to a particular KFC, right? KFC sit down restaurant is your favorite restaurant, right? So they will ask how many or how much or what is the average monthly sales of your favorite restaurant. Maybe it is KFC sit down restaurant, right? What is the average monthly sales of your favorite restaurant? Right? So again, there it's a combination of supply and demand, because in the peak hours is the supply of seats or supply of chairs that you have, and in the non-peak hours is the demand that we have, right? So, and similarly, one other question that was asked to one of our students is, how many new Maruti cars are sold in India per year? Right? Now here, what is the constraint, guys, in this particular question? What do you think is the constraint? Is the supply constraint or the demand constraint? What do you guys think? Demand is a constraint. That's right. Because if you have more demand, because you see, we don't live in a world anymore where the government decides how much can you manufacture, right? So we live in a world which is a market economy. So that means if there are more demand for a product, there'll be more suppliers for that particular product. So then the constraint becomes demand, right? So one of the very simple trick to approach these guesstimate questions is to figure out what is the constraint. Is it the supply or is it the demand? And then accordingly work towards it. A few other things that I always tell people to work on these logical questions is that know a few things, right? Know India's population, India's and US, some demography data. So population, GDP per capita, meaning income per capita. How much do we earn? Like in the US, the per capita income is around $45,000. So convert this into either dollars, or keep it in the US dollars, or convert it into Indian rupees. And in India, the typical GDP per capita is around $5,000 or something like that. So no GDP per capita, no literacy rate, right? No number of people per household, no income levels. Okay, income levels meaning what percentage of people earn how much of income in US or in India. So why am I saying India? Why am I saying US as well? When you are in India, Indian, because you see what happens is most of the projects that we get in India, most of the data science consulting firms get in India are from the US. Okay, so 60% of the projects are like from the US, right? So that is why it becomes important to know, the US demography. It's very easy. You can just go to Wikipedia and you can find it. It's not a big deal, right? So know some of these things. Know some of the interest areas that you have. Like you are a young person, so you should know how many people use smartphones, right? How many people use smartphones, right? How many people use cars? So you should know these kind of data. If you know these kind of data, it becomes very easy. Not that you need to know exactly, just some percentage figures. Okay, it helps otherwise. If you don't know, that's fine. You can always work it out. And nobody is going to actually question you on if you do not have the accurate data. Nobody questions, nobody cares about it, right? The interviewer was not worried as to how many crows are there in the city. The interviewer was more worried about the approach that I was taking. Does make sense? So these are some of the things that we tell people to work on logical thinking. One of the other things that I recommend people about building logical thinking skills is that just like how you cannot build muscles overnight by going to the gym and spending 8 hours, right? I say that similarly, you can't build strong logical skills by just reading a book. You got to try a little bit every day. So that is why what I recommend as a learner to anybody who wants to build logical thinking is that you go to pharmacy stores, you go to multiplexes, you use a lot of these services, you go to restaurants, you use roads, you use taxis, you use Ola, Uber, all these things where you interface daily, right? Try and estimate. So for example, if you're using Ola, right, try and estimate how much money this Ola person must be making per month. Don't hesitate to ask that guy, and he'll be more than happy to tell you. He'll be happy to tell you. And I've asked this question to even Panwala guys, that how many people do you serve every day? And you'll get interesting answers, very strong business insights, right? So you'll be surprised. I asked this question, I remember around 8-10 years ago, to one of the Panwalas right next to my house. He's a busy guy. So I asked him, bhai, bhaiya, you are always busy. So how many people do you serve every day? The figure he told me, he said, I serve 1,500 people every day. Then I calculated that one pan costs around 10 rupees, right? And then there are cigarettes, there are other things that he's selling, a lot of other things that he's selling. So even if I just take pan, one pan cost 10 rupees minimum, and then he had flavors of pan, all the way ranging to 50 rupees as well. So I said, okay, 10 rupees on an average as well, and 1,500 people daily. So 1,500 into 10, so that becomes 15,000. 1,500 into 10, 15,000 daily, only by selling pan. And pan is a high margin business, right? How much a pan would really cost? Maybe 2 rupees, maybe 1 rupee to make the entire thing, 1, 2, 2 and 3 rupees or something like that. So he's getting 70% of 15,000 rupees every day. Can you imagine that? So almost 10,000 rupees he's earning every day. That's just by selling pan. Forget about rest of the things. Rest of the things he said, I just keep them. He said cigarette में तो sir 10% margin होता है, 8% margin होता है, 5% margin होता है. I keep that so that people keep coming to keep coming to my store. Pan is the main thing that he wants to sell. So you see, what I'm trying to say is that to build logical thinking, build business awareness skill or business awareness logical thinking skill, keep asking yourself these kind of questions. If you go to a pharmacy store, why is this particular pharmacy store doing better? Why there are less number of people, right? You see any data in the news, right? For example, during COVID time, right? If a retail company says that our sales increased by 2%, so why did the sale increase by 2% of this particular retail company while all the other companies faced a problem, right? Try and evaluate these things and do these kind of things every day, little bit. That's what helps you to build that logical thinking. There is no otherwise, there is no other formula. See, I take a class on this, and this is probably one of the most difficult class that I take, which I call the class, the course, the subject's name is analytical problem solving. That's the most difficult thing that I do. It's so difficult. The reason why it is so difficult is that I cover 5 or 6 different varieties of problems in that, cases. I mean, including these logical puzzles that we spoke about today, guesstimates and all. It's not easy to help somebody build that logical thinking skill in just 4 or 5 classes. So that is why I stagger it. I put it across a few weeks, and then I give them assignments, mini assignments. So some people get it, some people don't get it. That's probably the most difficult, and that's the reason why I keep saying that the moment you think of doing something in data science, this is the basic skill that you want to build. Rest of the things you can easily learn in the book. You can experiment, you can practice, you can learn. Pretty confident you will learn all those things because there everything is defined, right? Rules are defined, but here the rules are not defined. So focus on this. Don't neglect this. This is one of the very key things. Alrighty, let's go now. So this is what I wanted to cover. Now, any other question about the data science as an industry? See, I can give you a lot of figures. Okay, I have got a lot of figures in my slide, but I try and avoid giving those figures. The reason is that this you can easily Google and you can find out that you can see that I told you that BFSI is the biggest industry that hires most of the people. Risk analytics, which is also part of BFSI, marketing analytics, retail analytics, digital analytics. Now I would say that this is little old data, 1.5, 2 years old data. I would say that digital analytics now would be somewhere here. It's becoming very, very very, very common these days. Okay, people are spending money on online marketing. People are spending money on online digital platforms. So they want to understand how well they're doing. So a lot of industry data is there. A couple of maybe couple of things that you may want to be interested. This is again a little old data. There are more than 1,000 companies in India which are into data science and analytics. Now it must be more than that also. This was last year's data. There are significant amount of startups, and they pay very, very well. Okay, very, very well. India has already become a math factory of the world. That means we do most of the data science work across the world. So if you're a young Indian, anything to do with data science, you have a great career opportunity. These are the typical hubs. I'm sure everybody knows. Bangalore has almost 1/3 of overall data science jobs, and then Delhi NCR another 1/3 job role. This area is 1/4 of it. Calcutta, sorry, Mumbai and Pune. Prominent area. Hyderabad is also coming up big time. Chennai is coming big time. Calcutta is improving, but it has, I mean, this is again 2 years old data. It has only 4%. It's improving. I do not have the latest figure, but it's improving. Okay. But what I keep saying to my students, to my participants of the program, do not worry about jobs. The reason why you do not have to be worried about jobs is that any skill report, any job report by any company during COVID, before COVID, if there is a skill that they recommend you to learn, then that would be data science and AI. Okay, or analytics, whatever they call it. So don't worry about jobs. Statistically speaking, our students at Ivy, they get 3 to 5 good calls within 30 to 45 days of finishing the program. Okay, of being certified. Some 15% of people do not end up getting certified. Okay, so you got to work towards getting certified, right? So if you're certified within 30 to 45 days, you get 3 to 5 very genuine interview calls. So if the interview calls are so much, but our conversion ratio is around 78 to 80%, the last time when we measured. So if the interviews are so many, but the conversion is 78 to 80%, then where is the gap happening? The gap happens in terms of preparation. I spoke about, right? There are a lot of skills which are required in data science. A lot of people end up thinking that, I should apply, I should apply, I should apply. Don't apply unless you're prepared. And do not wait as well. That means you have to be prepared. So when you're learning, just focus on learning the curriculum. Don't focus on rest of the things. You see, as part of this IB program that you do, right, you will work on 30 plus case studies. And these case studies are not just dumb case studies downloaded from the internet. Most of these case studies have been given to us by different companies who either we have consulted more than 100 projects already. So we have a lot of consulting data that we have worked upon, real life data, and a lot of companies have recruited our people. Uber, Ola, Accenture, HSBC, 200 plus companies have recruited our people. So whenever
Hello.
somebody recruits, give me 1 second, okay? Whenever somebody recruits,
Hello.
whenever a company give me just 1 second. Whenever somebody recruits from us, so we also get to understand what is the interview process that they took, right? What are the case studies that they have? So these case studies are built up from that database, and then you have an opportunity to work on 10 plus projects, industry projects. Again, these are projects that either we have worked upon or we are currently working on. So you got a lot of opportunities, areas to build your portfolio, right? So then what happens is, then if you've really done all these things, then converting the interview becomes easy. But if you're not focused and not done these things, then it becomes very difficult. Okay, so focus on the content is what I wanted to give you a message. There was a question, sorry, I was interrupting you. Please go ahead.
I'm really sorry to interrupt you in the middle. Like you
Pankaj.
told, yeah, you told us that we will be doing some sort of case studies. So, like, my
Yeah,
question is, will it be a real-time case studies also?
yeah, that's what I was trying to tell you. So I'll show you, one of the typical classroom. Okay, so we use this platform to manage our
Hmm.
classes. So I can show you one of my classes. Okay, so you can see the case study that we're talking about. So if I go to classwork, you'll see. So there are assessments which are very sorry, assessments are exams, and you of course
Hmm.
get video recordings of the classes uploaded in the
Hmm.
platform. And then there are projects. So this is one module only. This is only SQL module. Okay, so in SQL I make people work on at least three final industry projects. One is project that I will give you is given by Swiggy. It's a real life data set, actual Swiggy data set given to us by Swiggy because we were working with them, and as part of the interview process also they wanted to work. So one is project by Swiggy. This project, if I remember, is by Uber. And this is a research project that I tell my students to go and explore. Because you see what happens at times is that many times the interviewers say that, okay, your students have done a lot of projects and case studies, but they have done similar projects and case studies. So what now we have done, started doing in the last 1.5 years is that we have started encouraging people to do at least one research project every course module. This is just one module. Okay, a course package may include 4 5 6 different modules, like predictive modeling, machine learning, big data, Hadoop, so Python, R, and SQL, Tableau, data visualization, so Excel, VBA. So every module will have projects like this. And then there are case studies. So case studies, you can see there are case studies by. So this was given by one of the companies. I forgot, Harry Potter case study as part of their interview process. Accenture case study. This is a taxi for sure, which is an Ola company, okay, acquired by Ola. So this is an Ola case study. So you'll see there are a lot of cases from different companies that we talk of. If I go to an Excel module, you will see cases
Again,
by.
sorry to interrupt you. I'm really
Yeah,
sorry
yeah,
to interrupt you. Yeah,
sure,
you
sure.
told me that that we will be doing some sort of case studies which like of Accenture. Yeah. So like
Uh,
it will be a real time. That means on this year the case study which we will be getting, which we will doing, it will be the case study of this particular year, or like it has been already happened on the next year or the previous year. What actually it
yeah,
will be
so
a real
that
time case.
good
Yeah,
question.
I want
It's
to.
a
Yeah.
real-time question. It's a real-time case study, but we do
Hmm.
not really control as to when this was done or
Hmm.
whether it is been done or not. What we get to know is that this is a case study which is given to us by a particular company. Do you understand, Pankaj, what I'm trying to say? Whether this
Yeah.
is the
Yeah.
problem that we are solving right now, that we don't know. Like for example,
Okay.
Swiggy came to us, last month also. I mean, they keep coming after every month and a half. So they gave that particular project, right? So I don't
Okay.
know whether that particular project is something that they're still solving, they have solved, or when that particular problem was solved by them. That of course they don't disclose to us,
Mhm.
Pankaj. And as
Okay.
a student, what you don't care about is, I don't care when that particular problem was solved, as long as I'm solving the problem that they actually solved.
I understand, but my question was something really different.
Yeah, go ahead, Pankaj, tell me.
Yeah. Basically, see, like I have also done some sort of case studies, okay, but like the case studies which I got at this year, that has already been done on 2008 and 12 when I was like getting explored to the company. I just saw that. So that is what actually my question, that the case studies which we will be getting, okay, it will be particular for us for this year, like it's the fresh case studies, or like it has been already done one
No,
time.
so let me ask you this question, Pankaj.
Hmm,
Again,
hmm,
I understand what you're saying. So some case study may have old data set, old data. Some
correct,
case studies may have new data. Like for example, Swiggy is very very fresh, so 2019, 2020 data.
correct.
Uber is very very fresh, so 2018 and 2019 data. But
Hmm.
how does it matter? Is my question. It's just a date. What if there are cases where there are no dates? Do you understand what I'm trying to say, Pankaj?
Yes, yes.
Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah,
When
I
you
got.
put problem in your resume,
Hmm.
the resume, the interviewer is not going to ask you that, okay, was this for this particular year or that particular year or some other year? That
Okay,
doesn't impact your learning.
correct.
Ultimately, these cases and projects, what do they help you establish? They help you establish that I can solve the problem that you are solving right now. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah,
Solving
got.
the problem, the problems are same, similar or same in nature, right? The data could be X or Y or Z. For example, we are currently working with a company called as Tesco, as I said before. We are helping them solve their own problem statements. But they said that, we got the data of 20 years. So now they're using 20 years worth of data. Does it mean that the problem has changed, that they can't use 20 years worth of data? I say, why not? We should use 20 years worth of data. Do you understand what I'm trying to say, Pankaj?
Yes, 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 absolutely correct. Got it.
So it's like scotch, right? The older the data is, that means the more data that
Hmm.
you have from the past, the better it becomes. The model will become even better. You understand? If you have last 10 years
Yeah,
data versus you have last 1 year data, the model which is built basis 10 years data would be actually a better model.
absolutely.
Yeah. So we are in
Thank.
the question and answer session, Abu. I mean, in fact, we have been into question and answer session since the beginning only. I want to just talk about one more important thing here, because a lot of people asked about career transition. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a story. Okay, in 2009 or 10, that's the first time when we started working with a company called as Mu Sigma. Okay, they were also new in this industry. We were also new in this industry. They had approached us. One of the co-founders had approached me to help them build a larger team. Okay, so they had like 100 people or so. They wanted to build it to 1,000 people or so in next 2-3 years. So you see, after working with them for a few months, I realized that they were hiring engineers across the domains. Okay, they were hiring people from economics college. They were hiring people from science colleges like physics honors, economics honors, stats, maths, engineers. They also had doctors as well. So in after working with them for a few months, I asked this co-founder of Mu Sigma. I said, hey, Sayan, I see that you've been hiring people from different engineering streams, from different backgrounds, and you're putting them into analytics. So why do you do that? Why don't we create a special degree and we do something like that? He said, Pratik, you see, in India, you see, the general perception was that here people do not do a degree because that's what they're good at. They do a degree because somebody else has told them to do that. Your parents might have told you, hey, do pursue engineering, or somebody else might have told you to do something else, right? So here what we see is that we interview everybody, because for us, the most important thing that we try and see in a person is that, does he have a good smart brain or logical brain? If that person has a good smart logical young brain, then we can train them on rest of these things. That's not a problem. These are very easy to train them upon. This is the most difficult thing to train them upon: the questioning skills, the inquisitive skills, the curiosity, the ability to work with basic numbers, the ability to question things, the ability to think logically in a structured fashion. Those, he said, are the most difficult things to find in analytics, and those are the most important things to use when we are helping our clients solve problems. So my message to you, why I told you the story is, my message to you is that your background matters very little if you have a few things in your mind, if you're good in solving problems, if you have a habit of questioning things. So a lot of people think like a kid, right? A kid will not get satisfied unless he or she has found the answer to the question that he or she were looking for. For example, my daughter, who's 7 years old, 6 years old, she keeps asking question. So one of the question that she asked very recently is that, are gods real? So for the last 1 month, we've been debating with her that whether the gods are real. We don't want to impose anything to her, right? So we've been talking about it. So, and she keeps questioning, and we encourage questioning. We don't give her an answer right away. We give her a lot of things, a lot of information to assess or to process, right? So you want to think like a kid. Do you go to a farm again? As I said, maybe I'm repeating myself, but do you go to a pharmacy store and question yourself that why is this particular pharmacy store doing better than the other? Right? If you go to a restaurant, then do you question that how much money do they must be making? You go to a panwala or cigarette shop and you ask how much cigarette they must be selling every day. Do you have that kind of mindset? That's much more important than anything else. Everything else can be trained, is what I'm trying to tell you, right? So whether you come with the mechanical engineering, HR, statistics, accounting. So now I'll tell you another story. Okay, in last 1 year alone, okay, we have trained for Accenture, we have trained 1300 plus HR guys in data science. For Honeywell, we have coached 450 plus finance and accounts professionals. Somebody said accounting comments, right? Finance and accounts professional to learn data science, right? In ITC, a couple of years ago, we trained more than 500 people who came with sales, marketing, finance, accounting background in data science. So data science has become like communication skills of 90s. Like in 90s we used to say, right, everybody should have great communication skills in order to succeed professionally. So data science has become that everybody has to know data science irrespective of the domain that they work in, because data is there in HR, data is there in finance, in accounts, in commerce, in uh, engineering, right, in healthcare. A lot of our students are from medical science. For example, corona, you must have been seeing how people are talking about drug effectiveness, right? How people are talking about vaccine effectiveness and statistical significance and so on and so forth, right? So data is there across domains. What is more important is that you have that inquisitive mind frame. If you have that, then that's great. That's what we look for. That's what the companies look for. That's the main message that I would want to give. Rest of the things you can learn. I get your point. So whether you come from X background to Y background, it doesn't really matter that much. We have had less though. We have had English students. That means people who have done BA in English. Okay, they have also done well. Generally, what we notice, I'm not saying we have had a lot. I mean, we have had a lot more engineers than English grads. Generally, what we see is that people who are a little more quant driven, number driven, generally are more adopted to data science. Okay, so that's the message that I want to give. Okay, we've got ample, I mean, as I said, we have been doing this for the last 12 years now. So we've had fair share of students from different walks of life, and they have done great. Okay, but those people who have done great versus people who have not done great, the difference was that they were actually dedicated towards this understanding that I want to actually learn data science. I want to not just learn fancy tools like Python and Hadoop and PySpark and Scala. I mean, those are important as well, but that will only take you to the layer that, okay, you will be shortlisted for the interview, but you'll not be able to qualify for the job. You'll not be able to convert the job, because in the interview, they will ask you about tools also, but they will ask you definitely about logical thinking, your problem solving skills. Any good company will do that. Okay, so that's the question that I wanted to make sure that I address. Now it's open to you guys. Please tell me, and I'll be more than happy to cover any questions. We have more than 15 minutes, and I'll be more than happy to cover any question that you guys have.
Hello.
Yeah,
Hello.
Rudra.
Yeah,
Rudra.
sir, I was just asking that since all of our education has happened offline only, so when is this a possibility that you will resume offline classes as well?
Well, I mean, Rudra, two points to that question. Okay, when would the offline classes start? I mean, see, we have offices across the country in 5 different cities. We have offices. All the offices right now are closed because of government notification. We can't, because we are an educational company, so we can't really open physical offices until we get a indication from the government, and that may happen next month also, or that may happen the month after that. But what? One of the things that we have learned in the last 5-6 years, okay, at Ivy, what we do, and we are famous for doing this, is that all the classes. So for example, I'm sitting right now. I'm sitting in my house, right? But I take the same class with the same everything same. I sit in my desk. My computer is on. My camera is on. I have a writing pad to me. Everything, all the notes that we share are on our learning management system. Everything gets recorded. So whether you are attending the class with me physically in my classroom, where there are 30 people who can sit in the classroom, or whether you're attending the class, the same faculty, okay, at the same point, same time, whether you're learning it virtually through this app that you're using, the experience is going to be exactly the same. The same faculty, the same content, at the same time teaches people who are sitting in the classroom and people who are online. So what we have also observed is that even when COVID had not happened, that people liked to attend some of our initial classes offline, like maybe 2 or 3 classes offline, like in the classroom, and then they realized that I mean the difference in the experience is really nothing, except for the fact that, okay, I mean here uh, you can be physically in the classroom rather than you can be at your home at your convenience and saving your travel time. We have realized, I mean, we have done significant number of hours of classes during COVID. Significant, none of the days we were empty. Not even a single Saturday or Sunday we were free. Okay, every day, morning, evening, afternoon, we've been busy. And our students' feedback has been, because we track feedback ratings and all, has been absolutely, if not more, has been great. Okay, so do not worry about it. If you are interested, you can do a couple of demo classes, actual live class demo, live class demo classes. You can get recordings as well. You realize I say that physical online classes gives us a couple of more flexibility. For example, I can make, let's say, Rudra has asked me this question. I can make Rudra the presenter, and Rudra, you must have gotten a prompt to share your screen. If you do not mind, if you can share something on your desktop, maybe a browser or something. So see, I can see the browser here. He's talking about logit and probit models, right? So which is a classification model that we've been talking about. So you see, and I can control it. So if I want, I can control Rudra's machine. So Rudra, you'll get another prompt to allow me to control your mouse, right? So give me that control, and then don't move your mouse. So now I can go and I can open anything. For example, I go to a browser, or I can type anything, right? So let's say IvyProSchool review, right? So I type this thing, right? So this, we get something like this, right? And so what I'm trying to say is that this, in today's time, the apps that we use are great, right? It allows us to control. Right now, I mean, imagine if I'm in a classroom, I have to go to, there are 30 students, so it becomes impossible for me to go to each and every student. Let's say somebody is sitting in the 5th aisle and the 3rd row, it becomes very difficult for me to go and navigate to that particular person. Whereas here, anybody who's facing any problem, I can quickly go to his screen and I can control whatever I want to control. I can type as well. I can go to Excel. I can, recommend. I mean, I can, put the code there. I can do anything. So what I'm trying to say is that in today's time, the experience between online and offline education has really, especially for adult education, has really reduced. So you'll not find any difficulty. So anyway, I mean, to answer your question, I don't know exactly when. Maybe next month, maybe next to next month, or it really depends upon the government notification. We are kind of bound to that. But we have classroom. As and when it opens, you will have the flexibility to go and do it. If you join in August, will you miss out on something? Well, I mean, if you join in August, you miss out on the topics that we start in July, right? But again, as I say, try the classes. Nobody stops you from trying these classes. Try. The experience you'll
Hello.
have will be a great experience. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, sir. I was saying I was only about to join in August because my master's degree would probably finish in July. So there's no way that I can join in July. This is why
That's
this
fine. So
question came up.
you can join the August batch. That's not a problem.
Thank you.
You can
Yeah,
pre-book.
good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, Malkin.
Sir, please answer question number 4 that you've written, sir. That suggested path to the data science.
Suggested path to DS, right? Yeah, sorry, I forgot to answer this question. The suggested path to DS for in general, okay, I'm saying let's not worry about a particular profile, assuming that you all are very, very new to this. Sorry, I'm going to mute. I think there was a little bit of background noise coming from the Bindu. So suggested path, the first thing that I recommend is start building your logical skills, okay? So logical thinking skills. That means start questioning things, right? You go to start questioning businesses or whatever you do, right? I mean, in general, right? How many, I give you a lot of examples today. And then this is one way of building logical thing. The other way of building logical thing is other method of building logical skill is that solve a few, so I say 3 or 2 to 4 brain teaser questions, brain teasers and logical puzzles. Just Google for brain teasers. You'll find plenty of them, and logical puzzles. Plenty of them. And I'm saying 2 to 4 only. I'm not saying, solve 30 in a day. These are like, one statement, two, 3 lines questions, okay? And just solve 2, 3. Maybe make a group with your friends, your families, right? It's very exciting, right? It's like quizzing. So do this. This is what you're trying to do, is that you're trying to build your muscles, your logical thinking skills, basically here. Okay, that's the best way to do it. Don't worry about reading a lot of books here. I'm telling you, that's the best way. Now, the second thing that I say is refresh statistics. As I said, I gave you some references today, right? I mean, if you remember, I gave you some references from our blog only. Just open any particular book, okay? I'll give you the reference here again. Open any book from this this particular thing, or if you have any other statistics books, it's fine. Just refresh and learn statistics from an application perspective. Try to grasp, and if you do not understand a particular equation, move on. That's fine, as long as you understand the application of it. When you do a structured program, because of course, as part of our program we do a lot of statistics, but when you do a structured program, you learn that. That's not a problem. Try to grasp the application of the concepts that you learn. Okay, don't worry too much about equations, to be very frank. Third, build a little bit of programming understanding, right? So basic coding. So for example, variables, how to define variables. I mean, things we do in school days. Like in school, if you've done any kind of business programming, I mean, I'm sure you must have had a computer programming language there. So just do a little bit of that. Else, what you can also do is that, we have a lot of free tutorials available. Just go to, for example, if you go to our YouTube channel, so youtube.com IvyProSchool. So if you just go there, I mean, just follow some of the videos I can recommend quickly to you guys. For example, beginner's guide to Excel or data structures in Python. Okay, so this is the one that it's very good, small short video, only like an hour, and it has everything in it, right? I mean, like what software to use, how to download the data, and everything is there. You just follow this 1 hour video, you will actually understand how to work with data in Python. Similarly, we have something on Tableau, on Excel, on SQL. Okay, this is another video that I prefer, I recommend people. And so this is Python for beginners. This is also a good video, very simple. Also it's a longish video, it's pretty long video. Face-to-face SQL interview. So if somebody has some understanding of SQL, wants to understand, now this is a very interesting thing, that one of our young content analysts has done. So COVID-19 spread analysis of India using Tableau. It's done using a free software, and anybody can do it. It's very easy and it's very interesting, right? So this is how you build. These are some of the things that you can do in order to build a little bit of programming understanding or software understanding. If you can do this, right, then once you have done these things, then what you do is that you learn a few more advanced predictive analytics concepts, predictive modeling concepts. For example, regression, classification. And don't go to machine learning models yet. Do not, until you are very, very good in these. That's the biggest mistake that people do. And then they get a shock in their life that, hey, they've worked on a computer vision project, they've worked on an NLP project, but they're not able to clear the rounds. And they say that, no, these projects are not relevant. And that, remember, statistics, logical skills, and basic programming, these are the fundamental pillars on which data science relies on, right? So build these, then think of the rest of the things. If you are able to do something like this, great. And then start working on projects. If you're part of the structured program, of course, you don't have to do much, because everything will become part of the program. But if you're doing it by yourself also, then start building projects that you can talk about, that you can mention in your resume. Projects make your portfolio great, and that's a very, very important thing that you want to have, okay, in your resume. So one question is, will there be assessment after completion of the course? There is assessment after completion of every subject. That means every course module. So for example, any data science course that Ivy has 4 or 5 different subjects to Parna. So you are supposed to get 70% or more in each subject. And each subject would have a few things in it. Will have at least 2 assessments. One is midterm, one is final assessment. We'll have case studies, we'll have assignments which are given after every class, and we'll have projects. So assessment is this. You got to get 70% in all of these. 15% of the people do not end up finishing our assessments. Yes, you can have your Hadoop set up. You can actually set it up on Google and on cloud as well. Nowadays we promote, you do it in the cloud. That's much better. Abu had asked some questions, how to improve logical thinking we have spoken about. Highlight on the age factor. You see, unless you are like 50, 60 years old, I really don't. We have trained people who are CEOs. We continue to train people who are, who have 15 years experience, 16 years experience as well in corporate world. So I really don't think, because you see what happens is that, let's say somebody has spent 10 years in finance and then decided to jump to data science. So still there is an advantage for this guy, right? Because this guy can understand finance pretty well. You understand? So that domain understanding becomes very solid. So now with that domain understanding, if somebody gets the data science skills, then it is a good combination to have. So age, unless you really, really are old, right? Or unless you feel very old, that's also an important thing, okay? Really, age doesn't matter much, Abu. What matters though is that, okay, how much is your CTC? If you're already in a bracket of 20, 25 lakhs, then it becomes a little more challenging. Then you want your skills to be great, not just great, better than the most. And you got to have strong domain understanding as well, like of one particular domain, like marketing or finance or banking or healthcare or retail. What are the courses institutes offering? So I see multiple programs. Well, one of the very famous program, you can ask any counselor, depending on your profile also. But one of the very famous program that most of the people do is data science with machine learning and AI, which includes a lot of things. Which includes data visualization. It includes all the things that statistics, Python, R, SQL, Excel, VBA, Tableau, and Python with machine learning concepts as well, deep learning concepts as well. So that's a very famous program that people do. And then we have a comprehensive program which is called as the Diploma in Data Science, which includes everything, like big data, Hadoop as well, Spark, Scala, that as well. So it depends a little bit on your profile as well, Abu. Yeah. Every Abu, you can ask for demo class videos also, or you can also ask the counselor or ask the relationship person who you're talking to actually attend a class. That's not a problem, Abu, at all. No problem. Absolutely not a problem. We encourage it. Microsoft account, I don't know your name. He's saying that he's pursuing BSc in maths. BSc in maths is a very good profile. Some of the statistical concepts, the linear algebra concepts, you find pretty straightforward for you.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, Pragya. Yeah, Pragya.
Yeah, so, sir, I'm presently doing my BSc in stats, and I still have 3 years to look out for a job because I'll be
Yeah.
pursuing my MSc next. So, once I get an understanding of the course, like if I complete it, how can I keep in touch with the subject And I
So
mean, how
very
can I
good
get better
question.
at it?
Good question. Again, I'll tell, if you take my suggestion, okay. See, I've done engineering, and I just after engineering I did my masters, okay, because nobody was
Yeah,
there to guide me properly.
yeah,
In our experience, the BSc students, right, who are
yeah.
doing BSc in math, stats, eco, or something like that, they have greater chance
Acha.
if you have done the course to get a
Right.
job right after BSc as well.
Acha.
I recommend that you do the course now and you apply for the jobs just after BSc. If you get a great job, great. Otherwise, you can always
All,
pursue your MSc, no problem, right? And
all right.
I'll come back to your question again. But if you get a job and if you start working just after BSc, and if you work for a couple of years and then after you do your MSc, and then if you do an MSc, that MSc will have greater importance,
All
significantly more
right.
important. Then you'll be able to
All
understand
right.
that okay, this is how I had used and understand. This is more advanced concept that I'm learning, and this is how I would have applied it, right? So then the knowledge, the wisdom that you'll get of data science will
Right.
be significantly more. And then when you actually apply for jobs after your postgrad with couple of years of experience after undergrad, then
All right.
the kind of companies that you will be able to attract would be the best companies. That's the best strategy if you still have time in your hand, right? Which you have.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
coming back to your question, that how do you keep in touch? If you have done BSc now, you would have opportunity to do projects and all these, and especially if you're doing statistics or maths or eco kind of degree, right? A lot of projects are from this domain. Don't do a socio-economic project that your professor would otherwise tell you to do in your MSc. Do a
All
project which
right.
is a little more commercial in nature and which has direct application of data science. Don't just do something which people have done it already. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Most
Yeah.
of the time, our MSc students in their masters, they have done socio-economic projects, which have very less relevance in the industry.
All right. So, sir,
So
how
then
do
you'll
I
be able to
get
do
these yeah.
projects
Yes, these commercial projects? How do I?
because as these are all part of, I showed you in the curriculum also. A lot of these commercial projects are a part of our curriculum as well.
All right.
Yes
Acha.
Bank, Swiggy, Ola, Accenture, HSBC. I mean, there are so many projects that we make people do. So through us as well, you get projects, and we
Acha.
help you to also get projects.
All right, sir. Thank you, sir.
Sure. All right, guys. I mean, we are nearing the end. I've given my email ID. I've given my email ID and I've given my phone number as well. Feel free to reach out to me, and I'm also available on LinkedIn. So if you just search Pratik Agarwal Ivy on Google, then you will find the first profile on LinkedIn. That will be mine, Pratik Agarwal Ivy. And feel free to get connected with me on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the very common platform that I remain very active at, or Twitter. These are the two very common platform that I'm pretty active at. So in Twitter also, if you just search for Pratik Agarwal Ivy, you'll find me there. And feel free to get connected with me on LinkedIn and on Twitter. And it'll be my pleasure to get connected with you guys. Sorry, we have finished the time, but I'll be more than happy to take one or two more quick questions before I finish it off today. Any question?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon.
Yeah.
Sir, I am a mechanical engineer and I have passed out in 2013. And currently, I want to transition into data science. And I have
What have you
a
been
work.
doing for the last 7 years?
Yeah, actually, I have a work experience of about 4.5 years. Huh. And now I want to.
As Dipendu?
I have experience in sales background of about 2 years, and in my core sector, I have experience of about 2.5 years.
Okay.
So now I will change into data analytics industry. So will this be a wise decision? And my age is
Hey,
now 30 plus.
that's fine. 30 plus is not really a big worry for me. I mean, that's not a problem. What is more important question here, Dipendu, is whether you like this industry. Don't go into this industry just because a lot of other people are getting in this industry. I spoke about a lot of things today, right? You have to introspect and ask yourself, would you like something like this? Right? A lot of people who are in sales, they say that, hey, sales involve talking to a lot of people. Data science also involves talking to people, but significantly less number of people than sales. I get a point. So those are the questions that you need to ask yourself. Do you have that kind of brain which likes to ask questions? Do you like to work with numbers? Would you like to work with numbers? If you do, then don't worry about rest of the things. You'll always have a safety net of going back to what you were doing because you have had experience.
So currently, I am in my core sector. I am doing a job in production sector as a production engineer.
Yeah, so in manufacturing, there are a lot of opportunity areas, right?
But
Tata
I'm
Steel
not.
is our client, and Honeywell is our client, ITC is our client. They're all big manufacturers in the world, and they all use data science. Supratim, what was your question, Supratim?
Thank you, sir.
Supratim, I did not get your question. Okay, guys, last question for the day. Thanks a lot for attending the session. 5 years in software development. Scope to go into the backend based data. Yeah, I mean, Supratim, a lot of people from software development experience have gone into data science. I mean, we have significant number. I mean, probably the largest number of people would have come with software development experience, Supratim. So don't worry about that. Software development is a very related field.
Hi, sir.
Yeah, Guru Prasad.
So can you answer the last question for all of us? Like, as I'll be graduating in another one and a half month. So I do not have domain specific knowledge in the sense I do not have any prior work experience. So what do you suggest? Yeah, the last one.
This question, which skills should a fresher non-BTech learn in order to get into data science?
Like,
right?
My question is quite different from what's written there. In the sense, I do not have a domain specific knowledge in the sense, be it
That's fine.
Development or in the market or sales. So how difficult will it be for a fresher to get into a
I mean,
data
Guru Prasad, freshers, the pyramid is always bottom heavy, right? The expectation from a young person is very, very less, right? The reason is that they come significantly cheaper than an experienced resource. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So
Yes,
what
sir.
they look for in a fresher or a fresh graduate is that, do you have strong logical thinking skills? Can you solve problems? And are you a quick learner?
Okay.
You should never claim that you're an expert of anything. Don't say that you are an expert of machine learning. You say that, yes, I have learned, I have done predictive modeling, I've solved these kind of problems, and I'm still exploring it. I have great interest. Always talk of your interest like, this is the best thing that you wanted to ever to do. I get your point. So learn.
Yes.
So these are the same thing, build logical skills, refresh your statistics skills, build a little bit of programming understanding, work on lot more projects because you'll have time as well in your hand, right? And that's a basic philosophy. That's a basic framework to focus on. Young people have the time in their favor, right? And the expectations are very less.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So if you have interest of, if you liked what we spoke about, if you like doing these kind of things, or if you think you will like, then don't worry. Then take a jump. It's going to be fascinating.
Okay, sir. That was helpful.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thanks a lot for attending today's session. It was my pleasure to host you all, and hope to see you guys again. Feel free to get connected with me, and don't forget to like our YouTube channel and our Facebook page, guys. You'll find it on Google. Great to interact with you. Thanks a lot for all the intelligent questions that you guys asked. Bye bye. Take care, everyone. My coordinates are given. You can get connected with me on LinkedIn, on Twitter, or my email address is also given. You can get connected with me on there as well. Thank you. Bye bye. Have a good night.